everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about the portrayal of family in YA fiction or young adult fiction. A lot of YA that I've read seems more often than not to not really have a strong family dynamic between the characters. Or if there is a family present, it seems that the family doesn't really have that much authority over the teenage characters. Often I found as well that both parents might not be in the picture of the protagonist's life. For example, one of them might have died, one of them might just not be there for some unknown reason. And also, I feel like with siblings as well, there aren't really many siblings from the books that I've read, which I find quite surprising because when I was at school, well, I'm an only child and I was one of the few people who were an only child. Or who was an only child rather. And often as well I find that there aren't really many strong sibling relationships, which I find a bit sad because I would like to read more about strong sibling relationships, especially with characters in their teenage years. There are obviously exceptions to all of these things that I've just said. For example, I'm thinking of the Hunger Games, like the relationship between Prim and, what's her name? Katniss is very strong and this beautiful man, but at the same time, their mother. Do we know her name? No. Do I feel like there's a strong connection between Katniss and her mother? No. And also, there seems to be an interesting thing going on with conflict in YA and in terms of family relationships. So, in real life, I feel like for many of us, for the majority of us, our authority figures are our parents or our school. So we can't just go around doing whatever we like, for most of us. We have to get permission off of our parents or off of our guardians. And it's the same at school. For most people, you don't just run around doing what you want. You listen to the teachers, you listen to the authority figures, and you don't really step out of line. You do the rules even if they are more covert. I feel like in YA fiction this isn't really portrayed at all. And like I said, there are obviously exceptions, but on the most part of what I've read, there seems to be little authority figures in terms of parents or in terms of schooling. In fact, a lot of characters that I do read about may not even attend school, especially in these dystopian worlds. For example, with Katniss, she mentioned she's been to school, but we don't learn anything about her schoolhood as much. Well, there are obviously little inflections in the book of when it goes back to her school days. It seems like instead of the conflict lying with parents, with family members, with guardians or with the school, there is a conflict with an institution. Or if it's not an institution, there is a conflict with another person outside of schooling or outside of the family dynamic. And this, of course, isn't very realistic to what we see today. I mean, I feel like I have a bit of conflict with the government, but I mean, Boris Johnson isn't knocking on my door and, saying hateful things to me. Whereas in a lot of these books, particularly dystopian, it's the protagonists who kind of take down the government, who know these authority figures in the government, and they're their enemies. And I just find that a bit, well, I love reading about it, but yeah, it's just not very realistic. So my question is, do books have to be realistic? Do they have to show these family dynamics because they are what most of us experience? I think books don't have to be realistic, especially if they're dystopian books. It's a completely different society to what we're used to. But also, if a book is set in our society, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if the protagonists aren't very close with their family or if their family aren't authoritative figures. I think this because a lot of books I have read that do not have these authority figures, but I still really enjoy them anyway. And my second point to do with whether YA books are realistic is that in terms of family dynamics, I do not learn anything from a book when they are not there. But when the family dynamics are strong, I do learn from it. So let me give you an example, because that sounds a bit weird. The Night Circus, for example, it's a bit hard to put in a genre, because yeah, you've got the magical realism side, but is it YA, is it adult? A lot of bookshops put it under YA, so I'm just going to call it YA. Trust the bookshops. So that is a YA novel, and I do not remember any family dynamics in that book. I remember other things. I remember the atmosphere, for example. I remember the magic side to it, which I really enjoy. But then you take another book, like The Paper and Heart Society, and I did learn from that about family dynamics, because the main character, Tabby, is very close with her nan. She goes and stays with her nan over the summer holidays, and they have such a tight bond and a close relationship, and her nan is an authority figure. She does have to get permission off of her nan to do things. And the thing is, these are two very different books. So The Paper and Heart Society is set in our current society, whereas The Night Circus is sort of set in a society that has sort of existed in America. I'm not sure whereabouts it's set now. But it's obviously very magical, isn't it? Obviously it's magical realism. So you still have that realism aspect in it. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that I don't think you necessarily have to have the family dynamics in there to enjoy the book. Of course, I do enjoy reading books where there are strong family bonds, but yeah, I don't think it's necessary for a good book, but I do think it's necessary for a realistic book, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Do I even know what I'm talking about myself? No. So there we go, that's the video. Families. Let me know what you think down below. I find this topic very interesting personally, just because I feel like it's the most standout thing to me in YA. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Just have a little comment in the comment section and I'll get back to you. Oh my god, is this like an email? What the hell? Thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!